Do you really know what you're getting when you purchase a functional ingredient?
Well, today on WTF, we are going to cover the essential attributes that you need to know before you click buy on Agar. Hello and welcome to WTF, where we transform food here in the Modernist Pantry Test Kitchen. I'm Chef Scott Garin.
And I'm Janie Wang, one of the owners of Modernist Pantry. Here on WTF, every week we talk about unique ingredients and techniques and show you recipes that you can do in your kitchen. So remember, subscribe, ring the bell, whatever it is that they're doing today, and get notified of our new episodes when they come out. This week, we are going to be talking about the different functional properties of agar. So one of the things that we get a lot of questions about here in the test kitchen is what exactly is a functional ingredient? How do I use it? I bought this and it's not what you have, but how do I use it? And I think there's a lot of confusion about what exactly a functional ingredient is and what are the different properties. So we want to talk about it, but it's such a huge topic, we can easily get lost just kind of rambling on and on. So we thought today we'd focus specifically on agar and a few properties of agar that we think really differentiate one brand from another. Okay, that being said, Scott, why don't we start off with what exactly is a functional ingredient and what makes it different from, let's say, a spice?
So that's a great comparison. Functional ingredient is something that performs a function in a recipe. So these do something to the recipe to make it work. If you don't add cinnamon to a recipe, it's going to work just the same, but it just won't taste like cinnamon. If you don't add agar to a recipe that requires it, you're going to end up with just water, because agar will then make the gel that you need. And functional ingredients cover a number of different things. This happens to be a gelling agent, there's thickeners, there's emulsifiers, there's so many more different things that you can use a functional ingredient for, but if you don't have it, it won't perform the function. Yeah,
and I think when people may not be familiar with agar, but everyone's familiar with, let's say, baking soda, right? So that's a functional ingredient that you use all the time. Yeah. And I think one of the big differences between what we have versus, let's say, a baking soda is how do you use it? Like, right, people are used to like teaspoons, tablespoons. Why do you think, we tend to measure things differently?
So we like to be very precise, and especially with these, since you require just such a small amount. Some of these that we have in front of us that are gels, this is only 0.3% of the total weight of the water.
Okay.
So an extremely small amount. For every 100 grams, which is roughly just below 4 ounces, we're only using 0.3 grams. It's less than like an eighth of a teaspoon.
Yeah.
So that's why weighing things is so important with this, because if you just start adding teaspoons and tablespoons, you're going to end up with this mass that will gel, but it'll gel too much, then it won't even be palatable.
Yeah, and I think one of the confusions that we often hear from people is that they think, like cinnamon, for example, that they're pretty much all the same. But the reality with functional ingredients is that there's a huge variety of different properties and how they react. So you can't always just take one brand and then swap it out in another recipe. And in order to illustrate that point, what we did today was obviously we have our super agar, but we want to take a bunch of other agars that we source from different places and do an apples to apples comparison for you so you can see what the differences are from brand to brand. So Scott, when we think about agar in particular, what are the couple of functional properties that you think are both the most important and then also the most that have the most variation from brand to brand?
All right, so yeah, the most important is going to be, it's a gelling agent. So we need it to gel, and I like it to gel as efficiently as possible. With that, we want to make sure that it is, mostly agar that we're getting and not any, impurities with it. So that's important. But also clarity. I want that gel to be clear, because that is a property of agar. It makes a clear gel. Obviously, at higher ratios, you're going to get something that's a little more cloudy. But if you're using it at the proper correct ratios and it's nice and thin, you're going to get this beautiful clear gel. More impurities, less clarity. So there's a lot of things like that you have to look for, and we're going to kind of demonstrate today what exactly are you looking for in the powder that you're getting and in your finished product.
All right, and I know you prepped a few things that really kind of showcase the varieties. Which of these 4 samples here is our Super Agar, and obviously we can't name the other ones, but let's just kind of talk through them.
We got a bunch of different types of agar, and we wanted to look for them, and we got some that absolutely work. Every single one of these does gel, so that's great. That means they are agar. This one all the way to your left is going to be our Super Agar, and then there's 3 different samples from 3 different types, and we wanted to just show. And all these recipes are the same ratios, same amount of oil, everything like that. But there's a big difference not only in the color of the powder, but to how these gel noodles work, and even the clarity of a gel at a quarter of an inch thick. So there's a lot of different things that we have to do to see what's the best product and what's going to be the best for your recipe.
Yeah, and the first thing when you get a functional ingredient, obviously you're looking at it visually. Can you kind of talk through, obviously we can't do smell. We can smell it, but you can't. Can you talk about the color and the smell of the different powders?
Yeah, so you want it to have no smell, almost completely neutral. And also you want it to be as close to white as possible. It's going to be like this slightly off-white color, and that's totally fine. So this is ours, and you get this really kind of great, it's white, it's very consistent all the way through. Sometimes you'll see speckles in some of these other batches that we have here, but a nice consistent color and a nice fine powder. The finer it is, the more refined it's going to be. We can go into this other one. This looks good. This looks like a normal agar, right? There's not much of a difference here in this one. But then we can go down and we see a slight yellowing. And this yellowing that we happen to have inside of our powder here, we find in one of our finished gels. So this one, it's ever so slight, but when you're doing it on a large scale for a lot of different things, you need that nice crystal clear color. You're going to get a little bit of yellow. We found that definitely with our 3rd sample here. And then this is the last sample that we have, and there's something very interesting with this. So agar is made from seaweed. And generally you don't know that it's made from seaweed because you can't smell it or anything like that. But this is very granular. Also, there's some like little brown speckles throughout. And when we cook it, we smell the sea. So I don't want to say a fishy smell, but there's definitely, this is from the ocean. So that definitely imparts into whatever it is that you're making, because that's a pretty potent smell and something that people know. So when they get it, it'll relate to them, right?
Yeah.
So those are things you really want to look at just with the powder itself.
Yeah, for agar, there's usually a couple grades. You have refined, so ours is like highly refined.
Super refined.
Yeah, but then I would imagine something like this one with the smell and everything is probably what's called semi-refined, and that's definitely a lesser grade product. But you don't have to label it as such, so you don't know until you get it.
And there's an important thing is down the scale, these cost less. So this is the cheapest one, and then it goes up from there. But you get what you pay for, right? So that's something that we definitely found.
Yeah. And that's kind of a big part, I think, of when you're purchasing the products. We know when you Google search something, a whole bunch of different options are going to pop up. But if your product that you're getting is way cheaper than the other ones, and they're sourced in like countries where food grade standards are lower than the U.S., you get what you pay for.
You get what you pay for, right?
All right. What are these noodles here? What do these represent?
I think the noodle is probably one of the best representations. This is also great right here. So we found ours. These are all at 1.5%, so it's actually a relatively high ratio that we're using it at, but we want it to be able to hold in this gel noodle, and it's so thin that you're still going to get that great clarity. And even just from looking at it, if we look side by side, the sheen on the Super Agar that we have is just that much better. And these all use the exact amount. I just put a little bit of food coloring in just so we can really see. And you can definitely see like a dulling in the food coloring, and even this one on the exterior is very granular. So the more granular it is, the more brittle it's going to be. And Janie, if you want to, here, you can do it. You can lift that one up. That one comes up pretty well. It's smooth.
If I can actually get my, there we go.
Yeah.
Look at
so this second one also, this one works very nicely. You can definitely see a little variation in color. Just the clarity and the sheen on this is that much better. If you want to do that, here. So that one works as well. So this is the 3rd sample. This one, we started to notice with these two, is that the less refined, the more difficult it was to get out of the tube. because they'll pull away from the side because they do have that kind of granular structure that the air passes by and it doesn't push them out. So that was difficult.
Yeah.
But this works really well. I mean, it works as a noodle.
Yes,
this
but I would also say this one, like when we talk about the yellowing, this one definitely has a yellow sheen. So it's like a yellow green instead of the other ones that are like a clear green.
Yes.
So this one is, I don't know, the color in it's not
This
as
one
good.
here I can barely pick up. It is just breaking constantly. And that goes to the quality of the agar. If you're going to try and do something, a recipe that is refined like this, making a gel noodle is not something that is easy, and you're going to use a low quality agar, you're going to end up with results that don't work. Whether you're doing it for a dinner party or in a restaurant or anywhere, you want it to work. So that's a very big part of functional ingredients. You want them to function.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I think, where I'm seeing that visually is a big difference, because I know on camera maybe you're like, they kind of look the same. And we'll try to do some close-ups and whatnot so you can really try to see what we are seeing. But I think to me, it's very obvious in these blocks here. What do we have right in the front?
Yeah, so these are about 1/4 inch blocks, and then you can see obviously 1, 2, 3, 4. There is something that's going on with this fourth one here, that if you did spend the least amount of money on it, you're going to get this almost speckled look to it. It's extremely granular, whereas this is the clearest. There's a slight yellowing throughout the others, but they're all cut to the same length. They're all measured at the same weight. So you're going to get the best results with the one that is the most refined. I think that's the biggest takeaway, is like, know what you're getting and get the best one you possibly can, because you're going to need actually less of it to do more. So it works out in the long run.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So the higher the gel strength, typically the less you need in order to achieve the same effect.
Yeah, there's less things in there that are going to cut up that gel, less impurities that are going to break that gel, and then you're just going to have headaches rather than a good product.
Yeah, and we want you, of course, to try to use agar at home. And if you already have agar, you're like, oh, I haven't tried the super agar yet. We want to give you a chance to win a bag of super agar. So in order to enter to win, all you have to do is leave in the comments below any questions or uncertainties that you might have about functional ingredients that you would like us to address in a future episode. Because we're thinking about like, oh, what else should we cover? There's a million things, but we don't want to just kind of keep rambling on and on. So we want to make sure we're talking about what you're interested in. All right. Now, for people who are going online, they're like, well, I don't know what it looks like online. I'm trying to purchase it. I don't know what the quality is that I'm getting. What do you think they should be looking for when they're making a purchase?
So country of origin is going to be the best. Also, look at the purveyor. Are they a reputable purveyor? Is this what they do, or are they just packing agar just to pack agar? That's something that's very important. I mean, look at us, right? Yes. we're passionate about the ingredients, so we're going to have the best ingredient possible. That's going to be number one on the list, right?
And I think also when you're looking, if you are in the store, I think you could see the color, right?
Yes.
So these are actually not that bad. I've seen ones where they're like basically brown.
Yeah, there are some that come very, almost like, what is it, our soy sauce powder, that kind of, it's very dark. It does not look like an agar should. The granular texture, if the product online, if you're looking at it, has a picture of it, you can definitely see. Hopefully it is the proper picture of the ingredient that you'll be getting. But really and also look at reviews. Some people in the comments will say, oh, this smells like fish, or this smells like, or this doesn't gel properly, or it just doesn't work flat out. That's going to be one of the things that you can look forward to. Yeah,
and I think, shameless plug here for Modernist Pantry, but because we do care about so much about what we do, we're putting out content for it, but we're also making sure that when we source, we are always sourcing the highest quality ingredients. So I don't think we're going to be the cheapest on most of these, but we'll definitely almost always, pretty sure always be the best.
And one last thing is make sure it's food grade.
Yes.
Right? If it's not food grade, then you're probably going to be putting something into your body that wasn't meant to be there. So make sure it's food grade and the company's reputable.
Yeah. And I think one other thing before we wrap up, I would just want to cover is a lot of times we get questions from people who are saying, I found this recipe online, it calls for agar, and then they try to use our agar. They said it's not coming out the same as how I expect it to. What do you think is happening there?
So what it is a lot of the times people will use the most common agar, and it's going to be around this, number 3 that we have here. And that agar will then kind of skew their testing.
Yep.
So when they tested, they maybe needed a little bit more. And we find it's around 10%. They need about 10% more to do what our agar does. So you just scale it back just slightly, and you're going to end up with the same results.
Okay. Well, we don't have any recipe demos in this episode, but we're going to link to them in the description below. We have a few really cool agar recipes like our Bloody Mary bites. Oh, that's delicious. It's a lot of fun things to try. Check them out in the links in the description below, and as well as our other episodes around agar and different types of hydrocolloids. So until next week, from here in the Modernist Pantry Test Kitchen, I'm Janie Wang.
And I'm Scott Guerin.